This video is sponsored by the online learning community Skillshare. Tune in towards the end of the video for more information. Around 5 months ago, we celebrated the 5-year anniversary of what I consider the greatest role-playing game of all time, The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. I worked my absolute hardest on that video, and the response was and still is incredible to see. Sadly, YouTube restricted the ads because somewhere in that 3-hour and 40-minute video, I probably forgot to blur a nipple for 0.6 seconds, but that's the nature of the job, I guess. This video, like the subject matter, is somewhat of an expansion to that original video. Due to that, I'll be splitting this one, like I did the first, into chapters, timestamped down below. The first chapter of this video being chapter 10, given that the last chapter of the first video was chapter 9, meaning I'm carrying on right from where we left off. If you haven't already seen the original video, I'd recommend checking it out, although this one can be watched as a standalone video too. But now we pick up where we left off. Kaer Morhen, after the end of The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. After leaving the old halls of the castle, I headed down to the gates, hopped on Roach, and set off to journey back into this game. I'd missed this so much. The music, the scenery, the characters, and the world. And with that immense feeling of adventure on the horizon, we begin Hearts of Stone. Back in the Novigrad region, just outside of Oxenfurt, my first stop was to speak with Olberik von Avry about a contract posted that I found during my playthrough of the main game. Having Hearts of Stone installed at the time, I accidentally picked it up, but I saved it for now. Hearts of Stone introduces an entirely new area of the map to the game. Not huge, but enough to add some more exploration for players and interesting new people to speak with. One such location being the Garin Estate, now owned by the Redanian Free Company, also referred to as the Wild Ones, led by Olberik von Avry. Upon entering, we're greeted with a few of these men, all claiming to be Olberik and playing with Geralt. Pissed off, this erupts into a fist fight. One eye shamefully lost, but cut me some slack, it's been a while, he was a decently high level. If he challenged me to Gwen, it wouldn't have been an issue, but I won't let it happen again, I promise. Following, however, we are properly introduced to Olberik himself, one of the major characters in this expansion.
Ottoman, sir, you've a guest.
Do you know what types of sculptures fetch the best prices? Statues of deities, busts of kings, and nudes. And what have we here? A naked wench. What do you think of her?
Olberik is an incredibly complex character. There are a lot of layers to him, and this DLC focuses quite heavily on that of character. Olberik is troubled, he's twisted, and he knows more than he lets on. As we progress, we learn a lot more about him, his past, his motivations, and who he truly is as a man. It's very compelling, but I'm getting ahead of myself. We're tasked, as witches often are, with tracking down a monster in the sewers of Oxenfurt, one that has killed his cook and many others. Simple enough. We also get a nice look at how Olberik tries to live by a code, despite being a leader of bandits, stopping one of his men from laying hands on a woman, establishing Olberik tries to do right. Heading back out to go to Oxenfurt and slay this beast, I was greeted by a woman needing our help. She also has possibly the worst nickname for Geralt, and she said it simply too many times in the same conversation.
No what hoofs papers!
Name's Geralt.
I kind of wanted to deck her. Basically, her mate who deals fist tech has gone missing. She believes he's dead and wants us to find his dead body and the person that did it, which is simple enough, so I decided to tackle that before moving on to anything else. After coming to a town called Bowden, overrun by ghouls and left to rot, I did some digging and found her mate's body full of crossbow bolts. Investigating more, following some tracks, I was led to a camp of fallen knights with a note leading to another location. One thing led to another, and finally, I got to their base of operations. Now, the cool thing about this side quest line is that the leader of their little group is a man named Olberik, someone who recognizes Geralt as the killer of Jacques de Aldersberg, a major character in the first Witcher game, and one of the Grandmasters of the Order of the Flaming Rose. Of course, this band of soldiers being pretty much fanatics, this is enough to have them attack Geralt, to which we fight them off. It's pretty interesting that in this DLC we get this little reference to the first Witcher game, as well as a return of another character, but we'll get to her soon enough. After dispatching this group of knights and... Oh, you're right there, mate? I headed to the tavern in Oxenford to explain to Adela what had gone down. She seemed happy enough, all things considered, and I was on my way. It was a nice little quest to get me back into that Witcher gameplay loop, and I enjoyed the references to the first game in the series. Now, however, it was time we get back to the task at hand. Being in Oxenford already, it was about time I headed down into the sewers to see about this monster that needs slaying. Making my way through drowners and the dark, dingy sewers, we come across an old friend, Shani.
Shani,
Geralt?
what are you doing here?
Trying to save his life. Help me!
Shani, calm down. He's dead.
I'm sure something can be done.
Let it go.
Shani was a character from the Witcher books and the first Witcher game, someone who was close to Geralt and someone we have a lot of history with. Her characterization is incredibly compelling. She very clearly cares deeply about people. Being a medic, it makes sense, but it's more than just a job to her. She feels a certain responsibility for the men harmed by this beast. Shani explains what happened and that she's investigating because people have been getting ill. The beast has infected the water around the city and people are starting to die. She's come down to get a sample of the beast's venom. We do some investigating, learning some more about the situation and the beast itself until we reach the lair and we're ready for our fight to ensue. Geralt tells Shani to leave and to get to safety whilst we jump down to lure in the creature and take it down. Now, the Toad Prince is an infamous boss battle in this game and one I remember being rather tough. However, upon revisiting it this time, it really wasn't that difficult. Sure, it kept me on my toes. I had to make sure I was using Quen, eating food, using my potions, etc. But I felt like after my preparation in the main game, I was more than ready to take this beast down. It was nice and balanced with it proving a challenge, whilst also not being something I had to try over and over again. I had a few near misses, but overall I prevailed and felt good about myself. But this is where things in the expansion go from fun to mighty interesting. Geralt, now covered in the beast's venom, slowly passes out. As he does, we see the toad transform into a man. Clearly a curse at play, and we've been fooled. Whether Olgierd knew or not is yet to be seen. As Geralt falls unconscious, a group of Avry enter the sewers, seemingly unhappy with what they find.
Gadarash I'll Woot.
Geralt awakes at sea in a cell without his equipment. We have only one man beside us who was also involved. Asking this man exactly what happened, we get quite the explanation.
Where am I?
On the Albatross, or the Fakbarth Isle, as their strange tongue has it. En route to Afir.
Don't remember signing on as a sailor.
Oh, you didn't, mate. They dragged you aboard. Seems you killed their prince.
Turns out the Toad was an Ophiri prince and we killed him. The Ophiri aren't too happy about that, and so now we're being taken back to Ophir to be put on trial and likely executed. And that won't do. Enter our savior.
Greetings, Geralt. Remember me?
Remember back when I mentioned this? After talking to quite the suspicious man in the tavern, Colton wrote him, don't worry, we'll talk about him in the Hearts of Stone video, but I had to acknowledge I knew who he was, otherwise people would bring it up in the comments. Gaunter O'Dim, Master Mirror, Man of Glass, Merchant of Mirrors, whatever you want to call him, is one of, if not the best character in this game, and I genuinely mean that. The mystery surrounding this man from the very offset is superb. The fact you realise he was present all the way at the start of your adventure is honestly quite chilling, especially given that we have no clue who this man is. Gaunter asks Geralt if we want his help. In exchange, Geralt must promise to help Gaunter in return. Agreeing, Gaunter presents Geralt with a mark to make sure he carries out his end of the bargain and to seal the pact they've created.
Ah, and I must give you something to remember me by.
What's that?
A mark to show we're associates.
And with that, the strange Master Mirror is gone, and our help arrives, in the form of a storm, crashing the ship, killing our man in the cage, sadly, and leaving us to fight our way out of custody against the Ophiri soldiers. Not the hardest thing in the world, but without our armor, it proves more of a challenge than it usually would. Finally, being out of the ship, collecting our gear, it's time to head to the crossroads that Gaunter mentioned to complete our deal with him, and see exactly what he needs in return. And I think it's fairly obvious it won't be regular Witcher's work. This setup is incredibly compelling, and given what we'd already witnessed, it's clear that Gaunter is a strange being with immense power, and this is going to be a story full of twists and turns that we're going to need to overcome. I was well ready for the adventure ahead. Arriving at the crossroads, I meditate until midnight and am then greeted by Gaunter himself, whistling his theme from the soundtrack in the most chilling way, again adding to this creepy nature of his character. Gaunter explains that he had a pact with Olgierd and in a way tries to project who he is onto Olgierd himself, making Geralt feel more justified in his task.
Olgierd von Averick did willfully and maliciously conspire to cause you to kill a man who might have been cured. Had I not intervened, you would have lost your head for this. Do you know why he did it? Because he's a degenerate monster in human flesh who feeds on the pain and suffering of others.
Well, you clearly don't like him. What did he do to you?
He and I made a pact. A pact under which I called on my many talents and associates to give him what he desired. And now the time's come to pay. Yet, he shirks his obligation.
Gaunter is a master with words. He uses them like weapons, and even on someone as smart as Geralt, it's clear to see that he has his hooks in deep. There's no clear way out, and so we have to play his game.
What about you? Call yourself a man of many talents? Can't you take care of this?
Therein lies the catch. Our pact states that before I can collect my due, I must yet fulfill 3 wishes for von Averick. But I cannot fulfill them myself directly, making use instead of a... how shall I put it? A proxy.
So what you need's a sucker.
What I need is an ally. And something tells me I shall find none better than you.
What do you expect me to do?
To start with, join me in paying von Averick a visit. Then, well, then we shall improvise. I believe, however, that all will end well. And once it does, we 3 shall meet and thank one another for the voyage we shared.
Right. Specifics now. Thought Olgierd had 3 wishes, requests, whatever.
He does. He may ask 3 things of us, yet we won't know what they are until we see it.
3 wishes to be fulfilled, 3 tasks decided by Olgierd himself, and so we're off, back to the manor to speak with Olgierd directly and begin our quest. Every time we meet Odin, more and more is revealed about what kind of a man he is. There's something very eerie about this regular looking man who has the powers and mind of some higher being, abilities to do whatever he pleases, and an affinity for messing with people for his own pleasure. It's clear something is off, but this is our only option to escape his clutches. Arriving back at the estate, we see the building on fire. Clearly something happened while we were away. The Wild Ones are planning on killing a man. I decided to intervene and get to the bottom of this. There's a fight here that can happen between Geralt and Olgierd, but I tend to be one to de-escalate confrontation in this game, and so, although it might be sacrilege to avoid this fight, I did so all the same. However, we still get a good look into Olgierd's true nature. He's immortal thanks to his original pact with Odin, but things aren't always what you wish for, as he explains.
You're immortal?
Depends on your understanding of the term. Indeed, I cannot be killed. But it's not at all what folk imagine. Not dying does not mean eternally living your life to the full.
So it's a curse?
A curse? No, wouldn't call it that. I'll put it this way. You must be careful what you wish for, lest your wish be granted. For there are consequences.
It tells us a lot more about Olgierd and a lot more about Gaunter's motives. Then comes the matter of the toad turned man.
That true? You know the toad was a cursed prince?
He didn't just know. He brought about the curse himself. Did he not mention that bit? Well then, allow me to tell it. Quite a gripping story. Olgierd once loved a beautiful maiden named Iris. Yet, her parents chose to offer her hand to the Crown Prince of Ophir. Olgierd grew to hate the poor sot. At first, he wished to kill him, then decided this would be too simple. So, instead, he condemned the prince to a base life in a toad's bloated corpus. Yet he grew bored of watching him suffer and decided to end it. By your hand.
We get a lot more insight into Olgierd's past and why he is the way he is through the narrative lens of Gaunter himself, which of course can be slightly unreliable, but these are all things that we can flesh out ourselves later through other quests and optional dialogues. But it does answer the question of why we are where we are. But back of course to our 3 tasks. First being to find Olgierd's brother who is now dead and give him the time of his life. Second, to bring Olgierd the house of Maximilian Borsodi. And the third will be revealed once we've completed the first 2. Impossible challenges that we have to overcome if we are to fix this mess we've gotten ourselves into. Gaunt to give us some helpful tips and we're let loose to find who we need to find and complete these objectives. The feeling of being put back into the world and given these incredibly difficult tasks to overcome feels pretty good. I like the idea narratively that we're stuck in a difficult position and we have to work to overcome it. But I didn't get on with that first, however. No, there was much to be done elsewhere first. Previously, whilst rummaging around, I found Ophiuri diagrams, but Geralt of course can't read them and needed them translated, so I headed off to find someone who could read them for us. Oh, what the... No, stop. After arriving at the Ophiuri camp, I spoke to a merchant who'd lost this diagram, as well as others. By collecting all of them, he'd craft the full set for us, which I couldn't turn down. So I had to, at some stage, find other bandit camps to get the gear. I also spoke to the roomwright in the camp. He'd lost all of his tools and needed 5,000 crowns to rebuild the stuff to be able to forge his runes. I never did this. I didn't get 5,000 crowns. Maybe something for when we dive into Blood and Wine, perhaps. Would have been nice to experience this, but I could never seem to get enough gold, and I wasn't about to grind for it, so sadly, we might have to wait for next time. I headed off anyway to find these other camps with the Ophiuri diagrams. I found 3 of the 4 I needed before I got entirely sidetracked by something I remembered. People told me on my last video that supposedly Hearts of Stone introduced a character that could give me missing Gwent cards, which was great news to hear. Now, this might have been a complete rumour, but I'd found similar comments and posts online about this. Now, I wasn't sure, but it had to be worth a try after my awful adventure last time tracking down Gwent cards just to realise I'd missed an integral one. Now the thing is, right, I used a Gwent card tracker to track all of my cards, and there were none left that were directly from quests. They were all won from random people in the world, which was brilliant. It means that somehow I did acquire the card I thought I'd missed. The issue here, however, was yet to be uncovered. So for the next 4.5 hours, I travelled across Velen and Novigrad playing every single merchant, innkeeper, blacksmith and armourer in the region, picking up all my missed cards until I realised I'd gone awfully wrong. The card I thought I had and the card I thought I'd missed were swapped in a 2016 update of the game, and the Gwent card checker I was using wasn't updated to accommodate for that. So it means I am still missing a major card from the high stakes quest, and I was misled. I'm broken. Gwent has ruined my life, and my girlfriend has left me because I'm not the best Gwent player. I feel at the end of my tether, and I will never forgive Countable for this. Ever. Stupid cunt. Also, there isn't a vendor in this expansion that sells missing Gwent cards. There was just 5 new leader cards added in this expansion and people get confused. The vendor is here at this camp and he sells just new cards, not missing ones. I hate all of you, I hate myself, let me move on before I have a fucking aneurysm. I finished these bandit camps and got the Ophiuri armor, which sadly I couldn't use because it was a higher level than me, but I'll live, we can wear it later. Then comes one of the best side quests in this DLC, at least in my opinion. Without a trace. A herbalist asks you to go off and find his mate who hasn't been seen in quite a while, so I did just that, following a blood trail to a small village that seemed abandoned. Now this is something I greatly love. Talking to the only people in the town, they explained it's abandoned because everybody left to go find jobs in Oxenfurt, seek new lives for themselves, which adds a lot to the lore of this town and just to the region in general. It makes it feel more convincing and real, and I love that. It makes the economy feel like a real thing that exists in this world. Upon first playing this quest, I took the people at their word. The halfling came into town wounded, took some time to heal, and then went back out and was killed by wolves. I went back to the herbalist and told him the news. Now I had a weird feeling about this town. I snooped around a little bit while I was there, but I couldn't find anything of note. After completing the quest, I decided to reload because I couldn't stop thinking that I'd missed something. And lo and behold, I had. The game never prompts you to, but if you travel behind their hut, you find a cellar where there is a mutilated body of a halfling. It's pretty grim. Confronting the people, you can either kill them or make them promise to never kill and eat another person again, which I chose the latter, giving them the benefit of the doubt and Geralt saying he'd return, which I fully intended to. After going back to the herbalist this time, I told him the truth, and he had the obvious reaction. I then decided to wait a while and head back to town, finding both the man and the woman dead. eaten by ghouls. A fitting end really, and the herbalist clearly decided to take matters into his own hands. And it's so crazy to see this level of depth and choice as part of what is a throwaway side quest. Just adding to the detail you find in these side stories. It's the sort of stuff CD Projekt Red always nails, and I adore the attention to detail they put into every single aspect of their world and narrative. But with that sorted, it was time for me to head back to our main quest. Time to grit our teeth and attempt to complete our deal with the devil. Riding into the country, I found myself at the Von Everett estate, where Shani was waiting for me to enter the crypt and summon Olgierd's brother, Vladimir. This cutscene begins with some tension between Geralt and Shani. Obviously, she's a romance option in this DLC, and as you know, I'm staying faithful to my girl Yen. It's just what I've decided to do. I have self-control, I swear, except for Kira Metz that one time, but we don't talk about that. Shani invites us to a wedding for a friend of hers, hoping to get some of this witched dick. And we head down into the crypt. After doing some magical bits and bobs, we finally summon Vladimir. Now, in trying to show Vlad the time of his life, he needs a body. Refusing to wait for us to find any old peasant, he hops right into Geralt's body. This gives the quest a super interesting twist. We are no longer playing as Geralt of Rivia, but as Vladimir von Everett. And the character he is beyond amusing, especially hearing his words come out of Geralt's mouth. Honestly, this quest is so entertaining from start to finish, it never gets old.
They let a man-eater like that run free? Have the wedding guests been warned? Seems we are indeed in for a cracking good time.
There isn't a crazy boss fight or a monster to slay, there's no politics or anything, it's just really fun. And somehow, even with it not being Geralt, they managed to build a strong connection between Geralt and Shani, with Shani alluding to her feelings towards the real Geralt despite Vladimir trying everything to win Shani over. There are a ton of activities to do at this wedding, from little games involving diving into a river to collect boots, herding pigs, getting into fights, chasing down a fire eater who I accidentally let die, and then let's not forget a game of Gwent where I absolutely smashed it. As expected, they were on the floor in tears, I promise. We also learn important plot elements here too. Gaunter Dim appears at the wedding and Geralt, as Vladimir, speaks to him. Gaunter reveals he knows Vladimir is in Geralt's body.
What do you know about me?
That you were ever the worst brother, that you envied Olgierd from your earliest days, and always wished to be just like you.
Wait, you can see me? That is, me, Vladimir von Everett?
Of course. Why ever wouldn't I?
Because I'm in Geralt's body, the Witcher's, and...
Just who would I be if the true nature of things remained hidden from me?
And he knows more about the brothers than we thought. We learn about their relationship, we learn of Vladimir's devotion to his brother Olgierd.
You lying dog. That's my brother. I loved him.
The question is, were you as dear to him as he seems to have been to you?
He made a hero of me in death. In my last battle, in truth, I was far from valiant. 5 came at me. I'll not deny it, I fled. I hid in a cellar, yet they found me, cornered me like a rat. But Olgierd told everyone I flew at all 5, took them on all at once, alone.
I'm rather curious how you know all this.
Olgierd visits my grave, often. Pours a drink for me, gets soused himself, and talks of the old times. He cannot see me, but I hear his every word.
Well, perhaps one day he'll say something very surprising.
What are you getting at?
I shan't disturb you any longer. Have a splendid time, for time is short.
Moving on, there is so much of this night that is just fun and immersive. Dancing with Shani, their back and forths, Vladimir genuinely enjoys himself, and he writes a letter meant for Olgierd, which also acts as proof that Geralt completed his task. This pretty much concludes the night. With it over, Vladimir doesn't exactly want to head back to his crypt. It's harmless more than anything, the dude is chill and we got to know him quite well. Gaunter, however, asserting his dominance, tortures Vladimir, causing him to experience great pain until he vanishes. I assume he ended up back at his crypt, but with Gaunter, you can never know.
Get ye hence, or I'll take you with me, and your mouldy crypt will look like paradise in comparison. The choice is yours.
Don't torture him.
I promise he'll not die.
Gods, what is this?
I wanted to speak with Shani. I didn't want her to feel put off by me rejecting her. I wanted to be good friends still, even without romancing her. And fuck, Geralt, no, stop. Hey, look, I didn't get to choose. It just happened. Yennefer, I'm sorry, I didn't mean it. I only kissed her. Fuck. She didn't seem too happy, but we're still mates, and we didn't fuck, so I'm all good for now. The party was over, the night was late, and my first task had been fulfilled. A quest that is full of life and fun and energy that you don't see hugely often in this game. A very unique experience. I also decided, why not keep the new haircut Vladimir gave me? This, after all, was a new chapter, and I felt like I might as well mix things up for once, so I kept the new style, donned my armor once more, and headed back to Oxenford to speak with Olgierd. Arriving, of course, I immediately jumped in with what was most important.
You ever play Gwent?
Immortal demands you fulfill 3 wishes, and you've the gall to propose a round of Gwent.
Afraid to lose? No problem. I'll find someone else.
Believe that's the worst wind-up I've ever heard. Lay out your cards.
Of course, I won and left him with his tail between his legs, and I believe this really was the main quest, to beat Olgierd at Gwent, and with that, the video's over. See you later, guys. Goodbye. I do wish I could have played Gaunter at the game of Gwent, but alas, I guess it was not to be. With that done, I told Olgierd of the first task's completion, and of my intention on finishing the second, and with that, I was off to get Max Borsodi's house. What I love about each of these individual tasks is that they each feel like their own contained narrative that plays into the greater narrative of the expansion. Each has its own choices and character drama and intrigue, and I love that about the structure. Heading into Oxenford, I headed to the Borsodi auction house to try and gain an audience with Horst Borsodi. After a chat with some interesting guards outside the auction house, our boy Vimy Vivaldi comes along to help us out. This dude is someone I've visited many a time in the main game, the banker of Novigrad, giving out loans and converting currency, also a great Gwent player. Seeing him again was great, and it's super interesting to get to know him better as a character rather than a tool for the player. Heading into the auction house, you're able to interact with all of the different pieces that are on display, some being mighty interesting.
Goblet of Fire. Wonder what it is.
Heading upstairs to the main area, we're introduced to 3 major characters that are part of this auction. The first one being the Countess Mignol, a collector of Witcher gear and items. Very interesting for us. Upon talking to her, we get to purchase diagrams for Viper gear, a darker, more scaled looking take on the original base armor set from The Witcher 3. This is the gear I'd effectively set my eye on, considering it's the best gear added into this DLC, and I was going towards ending this expansion differently from the first in terms of my weapons, armor, and even my hairstyle. It only felt right to trade out my cat gear for the Viper gear. Of course, when Blood and Wine comes around, we'll be heading back to where we started with the Grandmaster crafted items, but I'm getting ahead of myself. We also get a nice conversation with her. She asks us about Vesemir, someone who she knew and had a short romance with, a romance which began her interest in Witcher memorabilia. It gave Geralt some more closure to the death of Vesemir, knowing someone else who cared for him. Truly a touching moment. Moving on, we have Hilbert, someone who came into a lot of wealth recently, playing none other than our favourite game, Gwent. I couldn't pass up the opportunity to challenge him, and so I did exactly that, ruining his day and bringing him nothing but eternal shame, which he wasn't too happy about. And finally, we have Yaramir, an art dealer. He asked some questions about art, I answered, and he gave me a tidbit about a painting that was up for auction. I could have used this to acquire a lot more money, but I messed up by telling Vimy about the painting, and so I decided not to bother bidding, which brings us to the auction itself. I only bid on one item, being the eagle statue. It unlocks a treasure hunt that I never actually did. I should probably get into that when we tackle Blood and Wine. Anyway, I finally met our boy Horst, and upon asking about Max Borsodi's house, he kicks us out rather abruptly.
Guards, escort the Witcher out. And he's not to enter, not alone, not hand in hand with Hierarch Hamelfart.
Honestly, he asked a question. It was a simple inquiry.
One more word, and I shall move my accounts to the competition.
Sorry, mate, but...
No reason to trouble the guards, Horst. I'll go willingly.
I don't recall giving you a choice in the matter. Kick his swiving mutated ass out.
This is pretty interesting and leaves us to wonder exactly why he's so very hostile about this house. After being thrown out of the auction and fighting some dickhead guards, we're approached by a guy all in black and a hood. Pretty shady if you ask me. He wants to partner up for a heist on the Borsodi's vault. After being reluctant, we decide to give him the time of day and meet him at the location he specified, a herbalist's hut outside of Oxenford, the same herbalist's hut that we'd just done a quest for some time ago. Upon entering, he explains his plan, to break into the vault and our role to play in recruiting various people to help. Someone to help us reach the top of the tower and another to break into the vault itself. With regards to this, we have a choice. I personally went for Quinto, the safecracker, and Eveline, a circus artist. On top of that, I needed to convince the cook to spike the guards' food to make sure most of them were incapacitated for a time. And so I set off from the herbalist's hut to complete these tasks and then return to the hooded man. First stop was the cook. Easily used a bit of axie and he gave in. Next stop was the mercenary camp where Quinto was being held, and you'll never guess, but I got him out by winning a game of Gwent. Clearly this guard had no idea who he was up against. I already got him once in the main game when he tried to screw me over with an archgriffin, and now, to add insult to injury, he was bested at a game of Gwent by the king of games himself, Geralt of Rivia. Quinto was in, and the last stop was to recruit Eveline. Eveline was at the same camp that I mentioned a while back in my segment about Gwent, where the dude was selling new Gwent cards, not missing Gwent cards. Sorry, I'm still not over it. Eveline works for the circus, but also robs people. We ask her to be part of our little gig, and she wants to, but she has an issue. Her sharpshooter has gone blind, drinking something he ought not to have, and she needs us to stand in for him. Simple enough. I shot some apples quite sheepishly off of her mate's body, and the job was done and she was secured. We headed back to the herbalist's hut together to finalise the plan.
This heist, it's no jest. So if any of you has any doubts, isn't sure, now's the time to leave. Won't be able to after. The Borsodi's auction house, its vault. That's our target. Eveline, you'll enter through the tower when the patrol rounds this corner. Drop us a line. We have to be inside within 5 minutes, is that enough?
It's plenty.
Splendid. Once we're all in the tower, we'll proceed to the auction house. Shouldn't see any guards inside. If we do, we'll have Geralt and his blades. Then, downstairs to the vault. Quinto will crack the lock. We get in the vault, take the loot, disappear out the back through the secret passage. I've said my piece. Any questions?
All good and fine, except what if something goes wrong? Seriously.
You're on your own. We all are.
At the same time, guards from outside pressure us into submission. Geralt, of course, takes control of the situation. With pressure on me, I chose the dialogue options I felt would give us the better chance of seeing this through to the end. With that under control and Quinto unlocking the vault, we've made our way down to finally confront Horst and his men. Oh fuck, no! Oh god, I forgot about this, please no, stop! Oh god! Anyway, we go to retrieve what we came for. Now this is where things get complicated. Turns out the man we've been working for is none other than Jord Borsodi, the brother of Horst, which makes things a confusing matter. We're given an ultimatum: stick with Jord and fight Horst, or join Horst, who will not let the Redanians hurt us, and we'll be given anything we want. Too good an offer to refuse, especially since Jord betrayed our trust. Quinto joins me too, and we fight and defeat Jord, giving him a moment to speak face to face with his brother.
Brother once, a brother always. I'm prepared to forgive you.
Is that so?
On one condition. That you acknowledge me as head of the family and bow before me. I might have fallen prey had I not known, but I do, you the bad shilling that always turns up.
With Jord dead, it seems our problems here are at an end. Issue is, Horst doesn't want us having those papers that reside inside the house. It's all too important to the Borsodi family.
I'd sooner die than let you have those papers.
I kinda just said fuck it and wanted to kill him anyway. He was a bit of a bitch, so I'm happy to do him. And not as happy with Quinto, but you know, had to be done, sorry buddy. With that sorted, however, and physically everyone dead, I left the vault through the secret passage with Max Borsodi's house, and that was that. Second task was complete. I love this entire quest. The interactions at the auction, getting closure to Vesemir, meeting new characters, planning a heist, making huge decisions that affect a family legacy. It's so much to take in, and all of it is just a smaller part of this grander narrative. And like I said earlier, each individual segment has its own drama and its own story that adds to the larger world, and it's brilliant. I headed back to Olberik and explained what had happened.
Alright, what do you have for me?
Max Borsodi's house, as requested.
Ah, Horst must be livid.
He's not.
No?
He's not anything except dead. His brother, same thing. A few others too.
Stones you've got. But I didn't think you'd have the stomach for a massacre.
He then goes on to explain the purpose of the house and what it could do for Olberik.
Why did you need those papers?
To sink the Borsodis, naturally. You see, I learned of an interesting clause in old man Maximilian's will. It states that his sons must meet and shake hands in agreement at least once a year at Bellatane. Failing that, the auction house must be auctioned off. The proceeds to go to Vilmerius Hospital.
Guess the old man sensed what might happen.
Horst and Ewald are gnawing on soil now. But thanks to these papers, their relatives won't get the auction house. Families lost it for good, and the hospital will have the funds it needs to treat orphans and beggars pro bono.
Awfully noble of you, showing so much concern for the needy.
I couldn't give a rat's ass about the needy. Made her wither and disappear along with the city. I wanted one thing. Revenge.
The Borsodis. What's your gripe? Get kicked out of an auction?
Worse. They evicted me from my home. Are you really interested?
Wouldn't have asked if I wasn't.
Ha! Cheeky as ever. My family, they took on some debt. A poor investment in a sawmill. A bad crop one year. A lawsuit lost. You know how it is. When it rains, it pours. We needed but a few weeks to recover. But Horst Borsodi had acquired our debt. All of it. Demanded it be repaid immediately. I pleaded. I begged. I tore open my shirt at his threshold. Ugh. It was like talking to a wall. I went to the auction. Saw those perfumed pricks buy my father's sword. My mother's death mask. My brother's horse tack. Ah, Horst earned a pretty pile selling our mementos.
No surprise the animosity you feel for him.
That was but the start. My Iris's parents led to my family's misfortune. And our betrothal was no more. They found her another suitor. One from beyond the sea. The anger I felt. I thought I'd gone mad. Went to the tavern. Drank a round. A second. Abroad. Then had another tankard. And then I asked the wrong bloke for help.
What happened then?
What happened then, Witcher, was one big stinking pile of shite.
His troubles, his story, and history here adds so much to his character. Learning what befell his family and what led him to working with Gaunter. It's tragic, really, and it does give you an insight into what kind of man he wants to be and the kind of man he is. The third and final task is introduced to us.
Third wish. Still waiting to hear it.
Aye, aren't you stubborn? Fine. Listen well. I had a wife once. The day I saw her last, I gave her a rose. A violet one. Bring me that bloom. Wouldn't mind reminding myself what it looks like.
When was that? How long's it been? Flowers wilted and turned to dust by now.
You wished to hear a wish. Now you have. Fulfill it.
And so we are to go and find the rose that he gave his wife before he left. Seems simple, but like all of these tasks, it's near impossible. I headed straight to the destination, the Von Everich Manor. I also at this point decided to throw on the Avry armor that we got right at the start because I was finally a high enough level to use it. Well, in truth, actually, I used the Wolven Hour potion to allow myself to use the higher gear because I was still too low a level. It's a potion that was added into The Witcher 3 a long time ago because of level and gear being rebalanced, and just helped players to continue to use gear that would have been rendered too high a level to continue using, and this potion meant that there would be no issues. I obviously didn't need this in a fresh playthrough, but I felt like, why the fuck not, because now I can throw on this armor. Anyway, back on track. I headed into the manor, and let me say, the tone and vibe of this quest are like no other. Super chilling and proper creepy. From the second you step inside the grounds, you realise where this quest is going. I investigated where a grave robber said he'd last seen his friend. Noticing marks on the ground, it seems a body was dragged. I followed them to find what is only referred to as the caretaker.
Other thief. Body's mutilated. Who are you?
This motherfucker is creepy as all hell, I tell you man, even fighting him was terrifying. I don't want to get too close to this weird ass dude, I'm not gonna lie. This fight is interesting, given his shovel heals him whenever he deals damage or kills these spirits he summons, you gotta be on your toes. Dodging and using Quen, but also taking down the spirits when they're raised. In doing so, I was able to slowly but surely take him down and steal his little magic spade for myself. After this, we're introduced to our new friends, the cat and the dog.
No eyes or nostrils, deformed organs. Damn thing had no right to be alive.
Well, philosophers do still debate what it means to be alive, exactly.
Normally I'd be shocked, but not after what I just saw. Who are you two?
Clearly not animals. Think of us as friends of the house.
It's not clear what the cat and dog truly are, but they're connected to Iris and Olgerd, watching over the house. They show us inside the house and tell us that Iris, Olgerd's wife, is upstairs. We slowly wander through the house, the tone creepy, with doors opening, slamming shut, furniture clattering around, spooky shit. We end up fighting a wraith of who I can only assume is Iris, that uses picture frames as hiding spots to heal. Not a super hard fight, but a nice one all the same. Taking her down, we're free to enter the bedchamber where we find the corpse of Iris von Avrik.
Gotta be her. Damn it.
You wish to see her? Here she is.
A man should frame his wishes carefully. It forestalls disappointment.
This some sick joke. Why didn't you tell me she was dead right away?
You didn't ask.
We have to bury Iris, use that to summon the ghost and hopefully be able to find the rose. We said some words, placed a sketchbook on her grave, and she arose.
Tormented spirit, I've laid your bones to rest. Forget your wrath, forget your grief. Show yourself. Forgive me for tearing you from your realm. I need to ask you. Should I follow you? All right.
Following Iris inside the painting, we're greeted with another super unique and interesting set piece quest in this DLC, again tearing it away from others out there. The art style is so interesting, with it being all in the style of a painting.
Strange place.
One born of Iris von Everek's dreams.
It existed only in her mind while she lived. In death, it gained substance.
Pretty fantastic tale. Hard as hell to believe.
Yet you'd best believe it, and be on your guard. The painted world is rife with danger.
Within this world, we find all of Iris's memories out of place. We have to repair her memories in order to wake her and speak to her about the rose. As we slowly progress through Iris's memories, we face many of her fears and get an insight into what happened between her and Olgerd. From their happy marriage to begin with to Olgerd's slow descent, losing his empathy and emotion. We get to see his love for her blossom and the care they both share for one another, to a change in him after her family discovers his financial situation. He feels out of control, and you can see he begins to lose feeling as he clambers for a way to reverse the deal he made with Odin, using a kind of magic. He becomes troubled and numb all of the time. He ends up murdering Iris's father and imprisoning her. He wants to do the best and he wants to repair everything, but he's been twisted by the deal he made with Gaunter and in turn has become a monster, pushing his wife away. And finally, we confront Iris's greatest fear, Olberik himself, or the vision she built up of him, a man twisted and warped by dark magic. This whole segment of the game is so wonderfully poetic in terms of gameplay, but also in terms of the way the narrative is conveyed. It's all shades of grey and never black and white. I feel for Olberik, I feel for Iris, I feel for everybody involved. The only true evil in all of this is so clear to see, and it's the man of glass, Gaunter O'Dim. He caused this, and he knew what would happen, and he did it for his own satisfaction. Talking to Iris, we finally get a choice, to take the rose or not to take the rose. In the situation, I felt there was only really one option. To take the rose, have Iris finally be able to rest, free the cat and the dog, and be able to complete the task for Olberik. And so that's what I decided to do.
I'll remember you, Iris von Everec.
That no longer matters. Farewell.
Stand in his way, and you'll meet a fate worse than death. Seek salvation in glass that can't be broken.
And so our third task was complete. It was time to finish this. Before anything else, however, I headed back to my boys at Crow's Perch to forge the Viper gear, the best gear so far added in Hearts of Stone. Felt it was only right to finish this DLC wearing it. Changing things up from the main game was nice and added this sense of further progression from where we were when we started. Also heading to my favourite swordsmith and dumpling dealer Novigrad to forge the Viper sword. With that done, it was time to head back to the tavern and speak to Olberik's men. The vibe was cold and somber as I walked back into Oxenfurt. The snow falling from above felt foreboding and conclusive. It was a really nice touch that after scenes from a marriage we had snowfall across the entire region, mixing things up and making it feel unique. Entering the tavern though, things got strange. Gaunter was waiting for us and stopped time right before our eyes.
Egg! More treats!
Show off.
Of course I am. Wouldn't you be? Time's a marvelous plaything.
This man again displays his power right in front of us and conjures a feeling of pure anxiety and dread. The way he's written, the timing they give him is perfect. Talking to Gaunter, we're able to ask more about him, and some of his responses are again chilling.
So what are you? A demon? A djinn?
Do you really wish to know?
Yes.
No, Geralt. You don't. This one time I shall spare you and not grant your wish. All who have learned my true name are now either dead or have met an even worse fate. Yet I still need you.
Gaunter is confident, he's calculating, and he's witty, almost to a fault. Our contract, however, is not yet over.
As a man of the world, you should know that every contract contains a catch or two. Small print, which, nevertheless, changes the ultimate meaning of the pact. This applies to oral contracts as well. Recall that I said, and I quote, "I believe, however, that all will end well, and once it does, we three shall meet and thank one another for the voyage we shared." End quote.
Yeah, I remember.
And before he leaves, so we can talk to Olberik's men, he leaves us with one last horrifying display.
That was the last time you interrupted me while I was talking to someone.
What the devil?
This entire conversation, segment, cutscene, whatever you want to call it, has Gaunter O'Dim on full display. His true nature, his intellect, he's so well written, and the mystery surrounding him has never been more intriguing. After talking to Olgierd's men, telling them to convey the message to meet us at the Temple of Lilvani, they let us know that Shani has been looking for us. The last time we saw her, we asked her to research Olgierd. She clearly has information for us. She conveys that after her research, she found a man by the name of Professor Shakeslog, who was doing research for Olgierd, sent him near enough mad in the process. He can be found at the Oxenfurt Academy, guarded by mage hunters. And so off we go to see Shakeslog. He can tell us about Olgierd, but more importantly, Gaunter. Shani comes with us, and after some trickery and sneaking around, we make our way into the academy grounds, fighting our way through guards to reach his house. We head up to the roofs and find a way in. His house is a mess. Things are everywhere, all over the place. We come downstairs to find the man himself. What he tells us about Gaunter is the most clarifying yet mysterious information yet.
There are records of encounters dating back thousands of years in many cultures, under many names, but always as evil incarnate. In this land, we call him Gaunter O'Dim, at times Master Mirror, or the Man of Glass. In deciphering the ancient scrawlings, I went blind, yet I learned a great deal. For example, that he plays with his victims, and thrives on pacts above all else. Seemingly harmless contracts, which drive their parties to madness.
Gaunter is clearly a manifestation of evil in some form, living throughout history wreaking havoc, preying on people's temptation and greed, using their desires to manipulate them into contracts and pacts of words that in turn send them mad and, in the end, kill them. He's true evil and one of the best, if not the best, depiction of evil for evil's sake that I've ever seen. Usually that motivation is boring, but here it's handled so well. His origin, his purpose is never truly explained, and that's terrifying. With this information, Shakeslog meets his untimely end after leaving his circle of protection. It's left up to interpretation if it's merely coincidence, but I think most of us can tell it isn't, which is what's so horrifying about it. With the knowledge of how to defeat O'Dim, to challenge him at his own game, we head off to the Temple of Lilvani to meet him and Olgierd. I also, in the process of travelling here, accidentally completed every Witcher contract in the game. So that was nice to see, I suppose. I didn't complete every Witcher contract in the game in this short space of time. I mean, I only had one left and I accidentally found it and finished it, which gave me the achievement. But with that done, the time was here to end things. Arriving at the temple, we first meet Olgierd. Talking to him, we explain the third wish is complete. He shows remorse and feels regret, before we're met with O'Dim.
Sorry to have kept you waiting. So glad to see everyone's moved. How do you feel, Von Everett? A little less troubled? Lighter in the heart?
His entrance is creepy as always, and the pact is explained. His clever use of words to get what he wants.
What do you mean, what? Your soul.
You forget. The pact states you can take it only once you've fulfilled 3 wishes, and...
And we stand together on the moon. Well, what do you know?
What? No. We had a pact. The moon is there. There! Not here.
I gave you what you wished for. Here, on the moon, our contract you fulfilled.
Boss, you cheated me.
I never cheat.
And in this moment, I chose to save Olgierd, using the information we learned from Shakeslog. It was time to challenge O'Dim and beat his riddles.
You wish to give your soul for his?
No, but we can play for them. I lose, you take mine and Olgierd's. But if I win, you release us both.
What do you propose we play? Gwent?
Yes, please! Oh, sorry.
Don't know. Maybe we can bet on a challenge. You know I'm good at accomplishing the impossible. Seen me do it.
Very well. But we shall do this my way.
What's happening?
You wish to play, so let us play. I shall tell you a riddle. Solve it, and both you and Olberik will be free.
And if I don't?
Then we'll all three go for a wild ride. It's what you proposed, is it not?
The riddle. Let me hear it.
To all things and men I appertain, and yet by some am shunned and disdained. Fondle me and ogle me till you're insane, but no blow can harm me, cause me pain. Children delight in me, elders take fright, fair maids rejoice and spin. Cry and I weep, yawn and I sleep, smile and I shall grin.
What was that supposed to be?
You tell me.
The riddle is set, and now we have to figure out the meaning. I'm going to be real, I did forget the solution, so it took me a while to figure things out. Heading through this demonic reality conjured by Gaunter is incredibly interesting. So dark and so many twists and turns. Having Shani show up as a figment of our imagination, this is truly marvelous, having yet another unique location created just for this expansion. CD Projekt Red really outdo themselves in the value for money department. Once you reach the end, you realize the answer is a reflection. Issue being, Gaunter will smash each mirror as you try to approach. But then I realized and remembered what the dog said. Seek salvation in glass that can't be broken. Using art, I hit a cracked stone, causing water to come flowing out. A reflection that can't be destroyed by Gaunter. Pulling him out, he begins to utter words in an unfamiliar language, which, according to the wiki, translates to, "You are primitive, you think you've defeated me, but you are wrong. I can't be killed, and I will be back." As last words go, those are pretty spine-chillingly good. Gaunter is gone, but we can never be sure he's gone for good. There's every potential that he could return in another form, or the same. But if his last words are anything to go off of, he'll be lurking, somehow. As we return to the real world, Geralt and Olberik are sitting on the edge of a mountain. Geralt's brand is gone after defeating Gaunter, but here is where we truly learn more about the pact Olberik made, and whether us saving him was worth the trouble.
First off, you tell me what it's like to have a heart of stone.
It's wonderful at the start. You feel no fear, no angst, but also no concern, no care for anyone, not even those you loved. And gradually, you lose them. Well, you know how it ended.
What about your senses? Taste, smell?
All there. At first, I savoured the world like never before. It was stronger, more clear.
How's that possible?
I did not wish for a heart of stone. That was a mere side effect. I wished to win back Iris's hand and have my fortune restored. And then to live like there was no tomorrow. And thus I lived until I ceased to feel anything at all. What a joy to be done with it. Because I am done, right? Will you tell me what happened?
After, Geralt explained to Olberik what happened with Odim and that the man was gone and the pact should have been severed. Olberik is thankful for his second chance, hands Geralt his sword Iris so that he can move on, without Odim and without his past weighing him down. The man is changed and our quest was worth it, saving Olberik from his heart of stone. Hearts of Stone is an incredible expansion to an already incredible game. The first time I played this, I was so enthralled, and it was no different this time. The new characters are so interesting, and the returning ones are too. Geralt is allowed to expand and grow, and Gaunter O'Dim is perhaps one of my favourite video game villains of all time. The narrative is meticulously crafted, and the side stories, choices, and branching paths feel so organically part of the experience. I can only commend the work CD Projekt Red did here. The unique world spaces are so well crafted and make this experience feel like its own piece of media rather than being tacked onto another product like so many other DLCs these days. The references to the first Witcher game are in abundance, and this DLC does not stray away from referencing, using, and being part of the greater Witcher universe and lore. The additions to progression, armor, and of course the wonderful game of Gwent definitely don't go unnoticed and add more to the general Witcher experience. Not only does it understand the core message of The Witcher choosing between lesser evils, it's a roller coaster ride of emotion, heroism, and of redemption. I love this expansion so much, and that's why it continues to be the King's Heart. This video was sponsored by the online learning community, Skillshare. Skillshare offers classes on a bunch of different things. Like I mentioned before, I've been using it to learn Premiere Pro, so I'm not left behind in this ever-progressing industry. After the last sponsored videos, so many people clicked my link and used it, and it's been so cool seeing so many people picking up new skills and sharing them with me on Twitter and Discord, as well as supporting the channel with that 2-month free membership. It's incredibly affordable at under $10 a month after that free 2 months, and you're getting access to so many classes on things you might want to learn. You never know the potential career paths these skills could open for you. Also, don't forget the deal is still available for you. By clicking the link in the description, for a limited time, the first 1,000 people will get a free trial of Skillshare Premium membership. It's worth checking out even if you don't think it's something you'd necessarily be interested in, because even just signing up for a free trial helps support me and also gets you access to a world of creativity you might not have ever thought about before. As always, if you do check it out with my link and decide to learn a new skill, tweet the results at me or hit me up on Discord. I'd love to see what you've all been learning how to do using Skillshare. And that's it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. This is another video that I've worked a hell of a long time on, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. I really enjoyed jumping back into Hearts of Stone. I forgot just how great this expansion truly was. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section below. Don't forget to drop a like, subscribe, all those things. I'm going to be covering Blood and Wine May next year for the 5-year anniversary of that, which will conclude my trilogy of videos covering The Witcher 3's 5-year anniversary. Plenty more videos to come. There is so much gaming coming at the end of this year, so stay tuned for November, December. There is a lot going on. You aren't going to want to miss it. It's going to be so much fun, and I cannot wait to hop into everything. With that said, that's it from me today. Thank you guys again for joining and watching, and I will see you all very, very soon for my next video. Catch you later.